Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Retail Pro 8. It's kind of an introduction to polling. Okay, so if you have a single store, this might not be as relevant to you unless you're looking at expanding soon. But if you have a multi-store setup where the stores are sending, receipts and inventory back and forth to each other, it's great for someone um, involved there to have a good understanding on how the polling system works, okay, what the requirements are. So we'll go over requirements, how the data goes back and forth, some of the common errors that come up, and then, how scheduling and different aspects of the basic polling work so that, you can troubleshoot some basic issues on your own or just to help you understand how the whole process works. So my name is Charlie West. I'm a support technician for Canadian Retail Solutions. This is going to be our second last Retail Pro 8 webinar. After that, it's likely we'll be moving right up into Retail Pro 9 and Prism. So if you have missed a few past ones, they are all available on our website on the support page, or it is on the Retail Resources page from the main menu. Okay, so I'm going to request that any questions that you might have be kept until the very end, and that way we can go through them all at once, and everybody who is here has time to get through the entire webinar. So to get started, polling, if you don't know, polling is the process or how Retail Pro sends data from one location or station to another. Okay, so there are some finer details on the difference between an actual location and a station, but this is an introduction, so I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty on it. Basically, it's okay for you to think of it as sending from one location to another one, so they are not on the same network. Okay, so that is basically, you should actually think of it as stores communicating with the main or head office, because stores cannot pull back and forth with each other. All right, so if you have 5 stores, they're all going to go from those stores to the head office or the main store, okay, where there's a main database that keeps track of everything, and then it updates the changes and sends it back down to those stores. There's no store-to-store communication. All right, but based on how your polling settings are set up, it is absolutely possible for those stores to see receipts at other locations, okay, to see customers from other locations. But they cannot actually send data directly from one to the other. All right, so there's a number of programs that polling uses. The first one is called Trans, which you would find in Retail Pro under Tools from the main menu and Polling on the right. So if you've used this before, you'll recognize this as the Retail Pro polling interface. It kind of gives you access to all the different polling programs, as well as some really good data on what's going on and the information that's flowing back and forth. Okay, so from when we open up polling, or Trans as it's called, we've got a couple options here in the top: stations, log, and options. So log is an ongoing log of the communication and the data going back and forth. Okay, unfortunately, I don't have a system that pulls with another, so my log is empty. But inside the log, you can filter it. This is really cool. So if you want to just see when the stores are exchanging, when you last processed in from a certain store, you can filter the results down, okay? It makes it a lot easier to read or find the data that you're looking for. We also have some options, and I'm going to get into these a bit later. And then we have our stations. Okay, I'm at the main, the head office. So from head office, you would see all the stores that are connected. Okay, I can add new stations in here. I can add in new stations. From a remote store, you will only ever see the main station. Okay, again, because the remote stores can't communicate each other, but the main needs to be able to communicate with all the different stores. Okay, so if you have 5 stores, you would see 5 different locations in here, at least 5. If you set up a pop-up store, you would see, 6. Now, on the right here, you see a number of different programs that polling can run. So I want to go through these quick. Number one here, this is known as your mini scheduler or your quick poll. Okay, so what this does is it basically automates the entire polling cycle. Okay, so we're going to go over each polling aspect. This one in particular, it just automates, it runs the entire cycle for you. So you tell it when you want it to start, or you can run it immediately. All right, so I've got exchange in here. I'm going to exchange, then I'm going to process in the data. I'm going to process out the changes, and I'm going to exchange with the stores again. Okay, at the stores, you'll see this one here called Quick Poll. It's very similar. It just runs it all at exactly that moment. All right, so it's going to process out the information it has is that the main needs. It's going to exchange, and then it's going to process in any new information it receives from head office. All right, that's your quick poll. Anytime you need the stores you're missing data from them, it's common to ask the stores to do a quick poll. But I'll show you some ways that they can poll at the store that you can walk them through that make it a bit easier, because it's not going to require everyone to get out of Retail Pro in order for them to do. Okay, so the next one we've got here is Exchange. So Exchange is the program that actually moves the data from station to station. So it connects to, if we were in the Calgary outlet here and they run Exchange on their end, it basically says, okay, I'm going to go look based on the settings you've given me. I'm going to go look for this information, and when I can make this connection, I'm going to start sending all the data that's ready. Okay, so when you process out, and we'll cover that in just a minute, it's preparing files for Exchange. Okay, so it's putting these nice compressed files in these folders, and Exchange says, hey, if I've got files in this folder and I can connect to the store that I'm set up for, as soon as that connection is made, I'm going to send all those files over. So Exchange needs to be running on both ends in order for them to make a connection. So a lot of stores will just leave Exchange running full-time at head office. It's just always on. It's the store that initiates that connection. Okay, so you can't leave it running at the store and then from the main say, okay, make that connection, pull all the data in. All right, it's the store that actually initiates the connection to head office. So head office, typically people will keep Exchange running just indefinitely. You can even install it as a Windows service so that you don't need to start or stop it. It's just always running in the background of Windows. And then the stores, when they run it, that's when it initiates that connection to head office. It says, okay, I've got a direct line, looks for any folders, any files that are ready to go, and sends them over to head office. From a store, you'll see this information in here, very similar. Almost always it's set up to internet, and they connect by IP address. Okay, your IP address is kind of like your home address on the internet. It's a unique number that is assigned to that specific location or that network that says to the entire wide internet, hey, if you go to this exact spot, you're going to find what you're looking for, the person or the network that you're looking for. Okay, so in order to make that connection at the remote, and we're going to go over this a bit later, you need to have the correct address or IP address in your settings. All right. So that's Exchange. Process out. So go back to our stations. Process out. Okay, so process out collects all the differences or changes that have been made in the database and prepares the data to be moved or to be exchanged. Okay, so it takes all these changes. If you've added, new items, new POs, and you're at head office, it's going to take all that data, those new items, those new POs, it's going to compress it as small as it can and prepare it for the store to connect so it can transfer those files to the store during exchange. Okay, and same from the store. When they press process out, it's going to say, okay, I've got all these receipts that were made today. I'm going to take all these receipts that haven't been sent yet. So it'll look and it'll say, when was the last time I processed out? Oh, that was last night. I'm going to take all the receipts since last night. I'm going to put them in a nice little package, and I'm going to prepare them to be exchanged with head office. So if you're missing receipts from a store, not only do they need to process out, which is where it looks at the last time it was run, grabs all the receipts or any documents that have been created since then, prepares them for head office, and then they also need to run exchange, which actually moves the data from the store to head office. Okay, so there's three main steps in polling: process out, exchange, process in. So as you can probably guess, process in takes that new data that the store prepared for you or that the main prepared for the store and was exchanged. It takes all those compressed files, uncompresses them, okay, so it gets the real files out, and then it merges them into your database. So it's going to take the receipts from the store, it's going to uncompress them into their regular size, and it's going to merge them into the database at head office so that when you go to the receipt list, you can see the store's receipts for yesterday. Okay, process in has some unique functionality. It can only be run with everyone out of Retail Pro, and that is because process in can only be run with everyone out of Retail Pro. So up until now, process out is just copying data that's already there, and you can copy a file that's in use. So if you've got Word open, you can copy that file and paste it into an email, and it's okay with that. The problem comes is you can't edit that file while it's in use. And Retail Pro is the same way. You can't, with Process In, you can't start making database changes and affecting files if there's already people using them. Okay, so Process In likes for all users to be out of Retail Pro when it runs, because it's going to update your receipts. It's going to update your inventory, your POs, all these different areas of Retail Pro. And if those are already in use, you can run into errors. Sometimes it'll put the files just on hold for the next time. Sometimes you can run into database corruption errors. You might need to reconstruct, different things like that. So you always want to make sure that everyone's out of Retail Pro before you do your Process In, because that's taking the new data and it's pulling it in and adding it to your database. Okay, next we've got the scheduler. So scheduler's not up here. Let's have a look for it. Scheduler. So if you see this little icon with the clock at the bottom, that's your scheduler. Okay. Your scheduler basically lets you automate the tasks inside polling. Okay, so we can create a new task. And let's say we want to run a program. I want to run exchange. Okay, so I choose the program I want to run. I set the time. I want to run it every day at 11 p.m. and I want to close it after 1 hour. Okay, so I should probably give it a name. Okay, so I have added an item to my scheduler, which works with Windows. For every night at 11, I want you to go find Exchange. I want you to start it and then let it run for 60 minutes. Okay, so we add, typically when we set up polling for clients, we will add Exchange, first Exchange. Okay, so that's going to pull in the data. Then we're going to do a process in at the head office. That's going to process in all those changes from all the stores. Then a process out, so it's going to take, what's different from the stores, what have they done at head office today, prepare that to send down to the stores, and then an exchange number 2 to send that data back down with all the changes in it. Okay, so we automate all those processes using the scheduler. The scheduler has some cool features on it, like history, so we can click on it, we can see exactly when it was run in the history of it. So if it wasn't run last night, did the computer get turned off? Was something else going on the computer that prevented it from running? If it had errors in it, can we try running it again? Is there something preventing Exchange from opening? All right. And it's the scheduler that we use to kind of automate all this process. So you can also add this poll in here that we talked about, the one that includes everything, to the scheduler, and that's just going to run it all in the sequence that you specify in the Exchange program here. Okay. Now, personally, I prefer to break it out and run Exchange, process out, process in, or process in, process out, and Exchange again in the scheduler in 4 different tasks. Basically, if there is an issue, you can use the history to better pinpoint where you're having a problem, as opposed to just having one task that runs all 4 of the Exchange or of the polling processes that you can't really figure out where things are going wrong. You just know that somewhere in those 4 tasks you're having an issue. Okay, so that's the scheduler. Some optional processes that are good to know. If we go back into Retail Pro, user info. So under options, user info, this will show you, let me see if we can, I don't think I can run anything to trigger it. Maybe physical. Yes. Okay, so this shows you every user that's logged in to Retail Pro and is not right on the home screen. So if you're on the home screen, you're okay. You're not accessing any of the data, so Process In can go and make updates as it needs. If there are users inside Retail Pro, and this one's telling us, hey, there's somebody here in point of sale, merchandise, purchasing adjustments, it basically means I have these files locked because I'm in the physical inventory file. If I was in point of sale, the merchandise, purchasing, transfers, or adjustments, it's going to give the same result. So if I'm in there creating new POs, Process In can't go and change those data files because they're already in use by someone else. It tells you the workstation number that's logged in up here. So you can see that matches the workstation number of my Retail Pro 99. And it tells you how many users are in each area. So there's one user that's got these files locked. All right, so that's a great tool. If you think, okay, I need to process in, I just got some new sales from the stores, I need to process them in, you can run this first, check and make sure that everybody's out. And I'll just close the PI tool. Next, we've got Reconstruct. Reconstruct, it's more of an advanced tool. So it basically re-indexes your data files. So you think of like an index tells you where to find everything. So the indexes for your files kind of tell Retail Pro where to find everything, how it's all linked together, so how your inventory and your POs and your vouchers and this all kind of piece and fit in together. In the event your indexes get damaged from usually an interrupted polling process, so the computer shut off during polling, its polling is turned off, so it's forced closed. Click the little X button while it's running. Those can cause corruption in your files, and they need to be re-indexed using Reconstruct. Okay, so sometimes you'll get a little message in Retail Pro saying, hey, this file has been corrupted. Please reconstruct or rebuild the index. And you'll call us, and we'll come in here and find the file that we need to run, and we'll use the Reconstruct. Okay, so that's what that tool does. It rebuilds the indexes and those links between all the different files that can get damaged when polling is closed. Sometimes if you have a lot of new imported data, you need to run this to rebuild those indexes. And it makes sure those indexes also make sure that no duplicated data gets into the database, okay, and causes more errors. Another useful tool is RProDB. So right here on the right, when you run this, it's going to check and see if there's any locks. Okay, so what are locks? They're little tiny files that Retail Pro puts in when somebody is using a part of Retail Pro. So back in user info, we saw that some users were in specific, we saw that I was in the PI tool. Okay, so if for some reason I exit the PI tool and it still thinks I'm in there, we can run RProDB to remove those locks manually. If you're running process out or process in and you force it closed or the computer loses power, that lock is stuck because it didn't get to the end where it said, hey, remove the lock file. Okay, so that lock is stuck in there. The next time you go to run process in, it's going to say workstation in use. Okay, so we run rprodb, which looks and says, hey, you've got some lock files here. Do you want to remove them? And we'll say, okay, well, I confirm those people are not in, polling or not in receipts. So those lock files shouldn't be there. Go ahead and remove them. So let's go through a quick polling sequence. So polling, it's almost like a schedule. All right, so I've got this little picture here set up. This is an example polling sequence between a store and head office, okay, because they're doing different tasks at different times. So the first task that you would run from the store is to process out. So it's the end of the day, the store's been closed for a while, and on the scheduler it says start processing out at 11 p.m. So what that says is, okay, well, look at the last time you ran process out, take everything that's new or changed since then, and prepare it to send up to head office to update the main database. All right, so it's going to run there. It's got up to 45 minutes, which is plenty of time to take all that day's sales and customers that were added, things like that, and get those files ready to send. At this point, Exchange is going to run at both the remote store and at head office. So it's probably always running at head office, but on the scheduler, it's going to say, okay, start your Exchange at 11:45. So the store is going to look, going to say, okay, I've got this IP address. Go look for that IP address on the internet, find it, make a connection, and then start sending these files that you prepared during process out. Okay, so those files are going to transfer across to head office. At that point, at 12:15, head office's job is to process in the new store data. Okay, so they might have 10 stores that they're pulling in data from. They might have 50 stores. So all that data that's been being exchanged, and it can exchange with multiple stores at the same time, all that data that's coming in, it needs to process it into its database. Okay, so it's going to take all these receipts from each store for that day. It's going to put them into its database, so it's got the master list or receipts for everyone, and then it's going to process out. So any new POs or items that were added, anything done at head office, or receipts or customers that are shared across all the stores, it's going to prepare those files to be sent back down to the stores. All right, so head office is up to date with all store info. Now it needs to update the stores with any changes made at head office. So it's going to start running out of new data at 1:15. So it gave it an hour, and then it's going to process out. At 2:15, so it's given it another hour, it's going to make the store, it's going to initiate another exchange. So the store says, okay, I exchanged, a couple hours ago, you've had lots of time, now I'm going to make that connection again and see if there's any files for me, waiting for me. It makes that connection, finds the head office over the internet, looks for any files that are waiting for it, and pulls them back into its database. At that point, all that's left is for the store, 30 minutes later, to process in those new changes from head office. Okay, so it'll probably run maybe 30 minutes and be done at 3:15, and it now has all the new data from head office. So the head office and the store between 11 and 2:45 have now synced up, and now both have the exact same information. All right, that's the entire polling sequence. And when we set up polling schedules at both head office and the store using the scheduler, we set it up very similar to how you'll see it here. So this would be exchange 1 for head office. Then I would add a task for process in, another for process out, another for exchange 2 at head office, and same with the store, except for I would be starting with process out first. Okay? So I'm adding all these tasks. Windows and Retail Pro are working together to make sure that these programs run and everything's going back and forth. So as you guys might know, things don't always go exactly perfectly. So let's look at a few things that we can use to try and figure out what's going on in polling, and is there anything that we've missed. So first of all, I'm going to pull up this station list here in Microsoft Paint so we can highlight a few different areas. Okay, so it's just got the one store on here for now, but let's go through a few of these different sections. So number one, we've got the name of the station here. Okay, so this is the name of the station and the station number or the store number in Retail Pro. This is your alert. Okay, so I'll show you after where in options you can set what would trigger an alert. So for example, if I haven't connected to a store in 3 days, put a little asterisk in here saying, hey, there's something wrong. You need to have a look at this. Okay, last connect. So when was the last time that the store and the main, the exchange met? Okay, so if it was 2 days ago, something's going on there. If they were supposed to connect and send you their receipts last night, the receipts are missing, you pull up Retail Pro, you pull up polling at head office, and I've got a last connect date of 2 days ago. So they didn't connect at all last night. Maybe I check another store. Well, I connected with them, so the problem must be at the store for some reason. Did they turn the computer off? Did the scheduler get closed by accident? So what's going on? How come we didn't make that connection? Okay, last process out. So when was the last time I processed out for that store? If the store says, you know, you made a bunch of new items and we still can't see them, that was a week ago. When was the last time I processed out for the store? Okay, so maybe my process out task isn't working properly. Maybe I processed out last night. There's no reason they shouldn't have those new items. Could it be exchange or something else that's going wrong? Last process in. Okay, so let's say I'm missing receipts from the store for yesterday. When was the last time my process in ran for this store? Okay, so if it ran this morning and I'm still missing their receipts, then either they didn't get exchanged or the store didn't send them in the first place, because I've already processed in, you know, maybe it was an hour ago, everything that was available. Next, we've got the send and receive folders. Okay, so these are actual folders in your computer. So send is saying exactly how many files are waiting to be sent to the store. Okay, that's your send folder. There's an actual folder in Retail Pro where it puts, when you process out, it puts all those files so that they can be picked up by Exchange. So I took these files when I processed out, I put them in the send folder, and Exchange knows to look there when it runs to send them to the store. So if you have files in send, that means the store needs to do an exchange with you because you have files ready for them. Okay, so if you come in the morning and there's files sitting in send for a store, then something happened last night and they didn't exchange with you in order to receive those files. The same thing with received. So received means that you exchanged and their sent files got sent up to you and they were put in your received folder, but you haven't processed them in yet. So if you come in the morning and you have files in received, that means that you exchanged, you connected with a store, but for whatever reason, you haven't processed in those files yet. Okay, they're sitting in your received folder. I received these files, but I haven't done anything with them yet. Finally, we've got the send error folder. So the send error and received error folders are just indicating that there's some sort of issue going on here when I was doing my processing, same with proc error. Okay, so I tried to receive files from a store, and there was an issue. Hi, Rebecca. This is Charlie. I don't know if your mic is on, but we're already a bit into it. So it did start at 12:30. It could have been that the email with the time was incorrect, but I will make sure that you get a copy of the entire webinar so you can review the first half. Just because of time constraints, I would start over because it looks like it's just you that's attending, but I have to have it finished by 1:30 here, okay? So I'll make sure that you get a copy once it's all uploaded onto YouTube.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, next we've got the wait and held folders. So what that basically means is that process-in tried to run, but those folders or those data files that it needed to update were in use. Okay, so that's why we say make sure if you're going to run process-in that everyone is out of Retail Pro. Because if they're using data files, if they're in receipts, then process-in can't update them because those files are in use. All right, so it's going to put those files in the wait or held folder. So if you come in the morning, you've got nothing in send receive, you think, okay, great, everything worked last night. There's no files waiting. There's no files ready to send to the stores. Everyone must be connected. But you've got a bunch of files sitting in wait or held. That means the store sent you polling files, but you couldn't process them in. So process-in ran, and it said this data is already in use. I'm just going to put these aside for now. Okay, so we need to go in. We need to figure out, did someone leave Retail Pro on? The most common reason files end up in held is at the store level because someone left a till on the receipt list screen, okay, tying up all the receipt data files so that process in could not update them. All right, so your wait and your held files are because those files were in use when it tried to process in. So we're going to go over a couple of the common issues that the stores, actually let's talk about initialization and regenerate first. So you'll see these buttons here on the side for initialize and regenerate. What these are is a way of resending data that's already been sent. So for whatever reason, you're missing store sales for maybe 2 weeks ago. So process out ran, but for some reason you missed a day or two of sales, and you need them to resend it. Well, they can't just keep processing out because process out just looks at the last time it ran and sends everything in between that. So if you're missing files from 2 weeks ago, but you processed in yesterday, we need the store to do what's called a regenerate. So you tell Retail Pro, okay, go look at something you've already sent, and I want you to resend it. So if we open this up, we've got a couple options in here. So we've got regenerate only documents made at the destination station. So that, since I'm at head office, that allows me to regenerate documents like sales for that store. So if they had a hard drive crash, I could regenerate all their receipts for them and send them back down to the store. From the store level, you're going to get the option to regenerate documents made at my station, at this station. So you're just going to say, I want to regenerate some documents, which are like receipts, vouchers, transfers. I want to regenerate these for head office. In the next spot, we've got document types. So do I want to send up receipts, vouchers, or slips? So if the store was missing, or head office was missing receipts for 2 weeks ago, you'd say, okay, I want to regenerate my receipts. They at their store would say, I will regenerate for my station, and then you choose the date range you want to send. Okay, these files aren't too big, so it's fine to send, a month's worth just to make sure that you've got everything that you could be missing. Okay, so if you're missing, 2 days in June, you can go ahead and just send June 1st to the end of June, to the 30th. You don't need to worry that those are massive, massive files. Now, if you get to the point where the store had a hard drive crash, they lost all their data, you're sending them all their data back down, in that case, you might want to break that up into no more than a year at a time. If you try and send 8 years of sales history to a store, using Regenerate, it's going to take them 2-3 days to process in all that data because that's thousands and thousands of transactions, okay? So if you are sending data back down, for some reason their hard drive crashes and dies, 6 months to a year at the most is your best bet. And then, maybe when they have some more time, you can send another 6 months or another year down, and so they've got 3 or 4 years of history if that's required. Okay, but definitely don't say, okay, well, we opened in 2010, so I'm just going to regenerate and send from 2010 till now, because those files would take days and days to process in. Initialize is similar to regenerate, but whereas regenerate is for documents, so that's for your receipts, your vouchers, transfers, regenerate is for your inventory, your settings, preferences, customers, security, so stuff that isn't on an actual transaction document. Okay, so Initialize is what we do when, let's say you have a new store that comes on to Retail Pro. So we use Initialize, we choose the store in polling, and we can choose what we want to send down to the store. So if it's a brand new store, just send them everything. Send them the security, customers, inventory, preferences, send them all the stuff that they need to get started. Okay? If for some reason you've processed out to a store and they are missing pricing, all of a sudden they're missing pricing for a whole DCS worth of numbers. Maybe that pricing got changed at head office, but for some reason when it's sent down, they just got $0 for everything. Okay, so you can process out all you want at head office. If it thinks it already sent that change, but something happened where it didn't get pulled in properly, it's not going to send those changes back down. So we would initialize the inventory for the store. That's going to say, okay, take all of your inventory exactly as it is and send it down to the store so they exactly match what we have at head office. Okay, it's not going to take the store's on-hand quantities, but it is going to take, you can see in transit, inventory, so that's your inventory description information, min-max, pricing. You can even, if you just were missing pricing, you could uncheck all these extra fields just to send the inventory pricing down. Okay, and it works the same way for preferences. So if the store's preference file gets, maybe it gets grabbed by an antivirus and deleted, or their security, you can initialize those settings from here as well, or customers. Okay, so typically we use Initialize for new stores that come on, or in the event that the store is missing some critical information that didn't get processed in, some changes, maybe new items got imported, but for some reason they didn't get sent down, then we'll use the Initialize tool. It basically just says, take my inventory at head office exactly as it is, and copy it and paste it onto the store so that they match us exactly, but with their own store quantities intact. So I wanted to go over a couple of the common polling issues that the stores run into at the end here. So let's go for, we talked a lot about running process in while someone is in the system. Okay, so that's going to give you, there's a couple different errors you can run into. It could just put the files on hold. It could say workstation is in use. So that means that the system that you're on is coming up as in polling. So if you were to go into point of sale, be on your receipt screen, if you tried to run polling process in right now, it would give you a workstation is in use error. So, it would tell you your workstation is using these files, so I can't run polling. All right, you need to make sure everyone is on the home screen of Retail Pro when you process in at any location. If polling's running, so if process out or process in windows are up and you press the X on them to close them, the next time you run polling, it didn't get to finish properly the time before, okay? So we mentioned this earlier, it puts a tiny lock file in the system, and when it's done, it takes that lock file out. If polling is interrupted, so the system is powered down, someone forces it closed, an automated task on the computer like a backup or something interrupts it, it is going to, that lock file doesn't get removed. The next time you run polling, it's going to say workstation is in use, and that's when we would run the RProDB tool to remove those locks after we've made sure that they're actually out of Retail Pro. Okay, another thing you can do if you get a workstation is in use is just close polling, just exit and come back into it and try again. So another common issue, stores and the head office can't connect. So I've got Exchange running at head office. I've got Exchange started at the store, and they're not connecting. I'm getting errors, or there's no data going forward. What we would recommend is, has the IP address changed? So we talked earlier, your IP address is basically your address on the internet. So it's the exact place where the store knows where to find head office on the internet and start sending those files. So there's an IP address at each remote store in the polling settings. So they'll only have head office on here. They would go to form view. It's going to have an address in there. Okay, so that address has to match what the actual IP address is on the internet for head office. So if we open up the internet, and you'll see us do this all the time when we're troubleshooting, we just go into Google. Now this is a virtual machine I have set up, so I'm not sure how this will work, but we'll see. And it's simple. All we type in actually is, what is my IP? And Google kindly tells us the your address on the internet that the remote store needs to connect to. Okay, so typically head office, we always recommend they get what's called a static IP. So they pay their internet provider for an IP address on the internet that never changes. But not everybody does. Yeah, so it's not even going to let me on the internet here. Maybe I can do it. Pull this over from my main system. All right, so this is my exact address on the internet where another computer could find me. Okay, so those settings need to be inputted on the remote store for head office. If they don't have a static IP, it can change monthly, it can change every 6 months, but when it does, they need to go in at the store level and make sure that the IP matches the new one at head office. Now, the other common issue we run into is Exchange running on both ends. Okay, so often the stores will try and exchange, they'll try and do a quick poll, and they'll give us a call and say, hey, I can't exchange with head office. I've got files in my send folder, okay, in the send one here, and when I press exchange, nothing happens. Okay, sometimes Exchange just isn't running at head office. For whatever reason, it was closed, the polling computer at head office was shut down, so you need to make sure Exchange is running on both ends. Remember that the store is always the one that initiates contact, okay? So you can have Exchange running at head office all you want, but it's the store that makes that initiates the contact and starts sending the files. Another common issue is an antivirus blocking the connection. Okay, so we see this one quite a bit, especially if you don't have antivirus that you can set an exception for. So in the antivirus, we've got ESET endpoint here up. There's some tools that let me set exceptions for certain folders or processes that run. Okay, so I can set exclusions for certain folders like the CRS folder, the R drive, that's where Retail Pro runs off of. You can also add even specific programs that run, and that lets you tell the antivirus, hey, don't interrupt anything that these programs are doing. Be careful that you don't, I've seen some clients before where they say, okay, well, I can just, I can save myself some time and I'll just add the entire drive, the entire C drive. Okay, so I can add the R drive from here because it's a network drive. So the computer on the network would be scanning it. I don't need to scan it as well. I don't want to add my entire C drive. Okay, that's the hard drive of my computer. So if I was to add that one, then any virus that get on there could do whatever it wanted because my computer's saying, okay, well, I just need to ignore my hard drive. All right, so I would not want to do that. I've added a specific folder for CRS, maybe some other programs that I don't want to get interference with the antivirus, and a network drive. So that's a hard drive that I connect to over the network. Okay, so antivirus, really common cause of people getting disconnected or people not able to exchange files. Finally, there's one thing we do. Usually we only have to do it once, and it's called port forwarding on your router. So basically, the remote store connects to that public IP address. That's how it finds you on the internet. Then we need to tell your router, hey, when someone connects to that public IP address, go to this exact computer, and that's where you need to send the files. Because otherwise, you're just connecting to their network. You don't know exactly which computer or which station on that network that it needs to connect to with Exchange and send the files. Okay, so we do something called port forwarding on the router that tells it when someone connects to you on this IP address, send it to this local address, this local machine, because that's where it needs to connect to. All right, we usually only have to do that once, but if you ever replace your router, then we normally have to set it back up again. Finally, let's talk about missing store sales. Okay, this is the most common polling issue call that we get. So the client will call up from head office and say, hey, I'm missing sales from this specific store for yesterday. Okay, so this is the first thing we're going to check is back in here under the send. Okay, this send folder, the received folder, and the last connect. So first of all, do I have any files in my received folder? Did I receive files over Exchange that I haven't processed in yet? Okay, if you have files from the store in there, first thing you want to do is try and process in those files. You'll probably have your missing sales. Okay, and then maybe look into why processing didn't run properly the night before. If you have files in send, you know that, well, I processed out last night on schedule, but I did not connect with the store. The files are still sitting here in my send folder waiting for their Exchange to connect. So they probably have files sitting on their end too. Why didn't Exchange connect with the store? Okay, common issues for that we see are that someone accidentally shut the computer down, it went into sleep mode, the Exchange, so the IP address changed so it didn't connect, like we talked about. Okay, so send and receive. If you have files in received, then you connected with them and you got their sales or their data, but you didn't process it in. if you have files in send, then you processed out data for them, but you never made that connection, okay? And you can check that in the last connect. It would put a date in here with the last time the exchange was running and connected, made that connection on both machines. All right, you've got your last proc in and proc out as well. But the key ones here, send, received, and last connect, are going to tell you exactly where in the pattern or where in the schedule did something go wrong. Okay, at that point, you know, the easiest thing to do, if you find out, okay, well, I don't have any files received from them, and I have some files sent for them, so we didn't connect an exchange. You know, you could talk to the store and ask them to run a quick poll if they can have everybody out of Retail Pro. Otherwise, they are more than capable of just pressing exchange. If they have a schedule as well, it's likely the files are ready and waiting, and they just need to be sent up to head office. Okay. The other thing you can do is check the scheduler, like we talked about earlier. It has a history tab on it, so you can see the history of every task that is run. Okay, so it'll have, click on the task, it'll give you all the dates that it has run. So did my exchange run it all last night? Did process in run? You can go through that at both the store and head office, and that's why I like to break it out into individual tasks. So it exchanges, and then it processes out, processes in, so that you can have a better chance of locating exactly where the issue happened. What I recommend for people is that if you're polling with a lot of stores, that you set your alerts up. Okay, so this alert here, this exclamation point, this is going to tell you that, hey, there's something, you know, you told me to let you know when something's going on here. So they come in the morning, they have a peek at this, and they see if there's any alerts. So none of these stores have an asterisk here under the exclamation point. So they don't have an alert up. I set those alerts under the options in preferences. Okay, so for alert status, we have all these different things in here. So if I haven't connected in 2 days, I want you to put an alert up there so I know to have a look into that one. If I have files that I processed out and I didn't connect, let me know. Okay, I received files, but I have not processed them in. Let me know that as well. Why would I have files that I received, but I didn't process in? Okay, files not fully sent or received, so did process out get interrupted? Did exchange get interrupted? Why are these files only half done? Okay, you've got all these different options in here that we can use to put that little alert. So when one of these settings is checked off, then it's going to give you a little note in this field here. Okay, it's not showing up right now because these are fictitious stations. They've never once made a connection, so it won't start checking them for alerts. All right, so that is your basic introduction to polling. Now, does anybody have any questions?